Welcome back to some professional Starcraft 2 from the Dreamhack Masters North America. Losers Bracket Finals. Yes, both these players were knocked down. But this match determines who's going to get knocked down. In the bottom left, from the Adepted clan, but she's on a team and really should be using Brave Star Gaming. From Brave Star Gaming from Canada. One of the best Zerg players in the history of StarCraft. One of the best in North America. And possibly, and almost certainly, the best in this game. It is Scarlett. And in the top right, the player sponsored for a while now by Ting. The three-time WCS champion, the first non-Korean to win a tournament on Korean soil in StarCraft 2, and the first non-Korean to win a tournament on Korean soil since about 2001, which was before he was born. Just pointing that one out there. But it doesn't take old age and experience to win 3 WCS finals. Let me first introduce you to the most accomplished player in the United States of America, from the great state of New York. It is Neeb. With a standard opener, 1 gate expand, and Scarlett got her hatchery at least threatened to be blocked. We'll take the third, but no aggression afoot. It's going to be a, as they say, standard macro game. Neeb opting for the Stargate with increased popularity since everyone's favorite unit from the Silver League on up. The Void Ray has gotten overall a buff. Same amount of damage, but it moves faster, it costs less, it's more handsome, it takes less time to build. A lot of big buffs to the Void Ray, but not enough that it makes it a core unit necessarily, but every once in a while players have been trying to work it in to varying success. Neeb confirms a third hatchery, throws the shade out to check. How much has he seen in the main? He's seen no second gas. He saw Zergling speed on the way. He saw the timing of the gas and how much has been mined. Looking at the drone count at the third as well, and I think all of this is going to line up to tell the man there's no aggression afoot. There's no attack coming in. There's nothing dramatically needed to worry about. Oh, there's that Void Ray. Thank you, Mapu. Mapu, one of my top 5 observers. You might be like, Winter, aren't there only like 2 or 3 professional observers in StarCraft 2? And that puts him solidly in my top 5. Thank you, Mapu. Oracle driven away. Robotics facility right off the bat. So there are a couple different flavors of follow-ups here for protoss players. Occasionally we get the extra Stargates. That's probably the most rare and most dramatic. Like you throw another Stargate on and maybe Phoenixes, maybe Void Rays, you don't know. I mean, you do know. The player knows, but it's unclear sometimes what they're going to go for. Neeb. Brenda! Give me the old knitting needles! We can't use those anymore. New laws. Who cares? When I was born, there were no laws. That was before the war. Void Ray finds another Overlord. Didn't expect that, did you, Mr. Void Ray? But the Queen's just going to give it a strong talking to and a few more knitting needles before it's driven away. What was I talking about? The varieties. Oh, the robotics facility is probably the safest. Robotics facility means, obviously, you have options for Warp Prism. You got Immortals, Observers. It's probably your most baseline macro play. Some players will opt for like a Twilight Council timing, maybe follow up with Glaives. Potentially, we've been seeing a few more DTs worked in earlier, but Protoss gonna Protoss. And Neeb, of course, well known, possibly too well known for his own good as a shield Protoss, like a defensive macro Protoss. Which, oh no, Neeb! Finally, the Queen strike down the Void Ray from its greedy perch, denying the 4th base. And Scarlett should be able to pick that up. Scarlett's up to 69 drones, which is a nice number. Oh, just built a new hatchery. But Neeb has sentries on the way. Now I want to point out, no Twilight, no Robo-Bay, and a Warp Prism. Neeb's going to attack. Neeb's going to use these sentries and try to hit a timing to at least deny the 4th hatchery, if possible, and maybe do more damage if the opportunity arises. But the reason you don't progress your tech here, you don't build more probes, is to do a timing attack. And a lot of Protoss do feel obligated to get that timing attack done relatively early on before you can be dealing with Lurkers, with Hive, maybe even Brood Lords and Vipers later on, though that is a little further on the horizon. Here comes the March of Neeb, his Immortal Sentry Soul Train, named after Parting's interview where he kept winning with this sort of build. And they're like, why do you win and no other Protoss do? Because he was almost perfect. He's like, because I put so much soul into my builds. So let's see if Neeb has the soul after staying there for several months to compete in GSL. Oh my god, locks in the Hydras and Banes, the force fields! I mean, he's kind of dictating the pace of this fight, and by that I mean that he's winning and Scarlett is most definitely losing. The force fields perfectly interlocking, and Scarlett just done, executed in game 1. Well, it appears there was more than enough soul there. Neeb should start an R&B album, but I doubt he will. I forget if this was Neeb I was talking to. I believe at Storm Cup recently, and by recently I mean a year and a half ago. Wow. Didn't have Storm Cup this year for Defiler-related reasons. But Neeb is one of those players who doesn't really listen to music. Pult as well. I don't know. I've asked because I'm. If you watch me stream or play or even now, you know I'm very meticulous about the music. I have strong feelings about it. Neeb is like, well, yeah, whatever. I sometimes I'll put a song on, which is almost exactly what Pult said back in the day as well. Like, okay, oh no. Pult was like, well, I like listening to the in-game music, but I turn it off after the early game. It's like, we're just, everybody's been there. Okay, everybody's been there with the probes. We're just gonna pretend nobody saw that. Let's move on. Oh, God. Oh, we're introing Neeb. Yes. I gotta say, those force fields were incredible. Oh my god, what have I done? Oh, trans-dimensional portal has been unearthed. There you go. I was kind of suspecting a cannon rush from Neeb, sending a probe out so early, but so far standard. I mean, there's not much to worry about. He's already scouted that there's no pool. Scarlett, the Overlord takes a while to get there. Now, Scarlett doesn't know for sure. It's not a cannon rush, but just by taking the 3rd hatch, you've kind of preempted a lot of the danger of a cannon rush. It being able to cut off your only mining bases besides your main is usually the biggest threat. I'm kind of putting it out there because I was talking about Neeb being a shield Protoss, which means he doesn't cannon rush enough. Not enough. Like, he cannon rushes so little. Yeah, I want to feel like I'm there, Jimmy. Thank you. I want immersion! Where's my VR? Void Race? No! I don't... And the score! Scarlett! Yeah. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean the same people who tell me that the score is wrong are also not going to notice that the series is a best of 5, and that has always been there, and every time that they ask, like, is this a best of 3? Is this a best of 7? Like, what is this best of? Those same people didn't see that right between their names? Are you saying that? Well, maybe stop talking. I'm not paying you to talk. Nexus is on the way. And that's not surprising. That's kind of your, like, let's look at the production tab and see where we go from there. It was Neeb! You have one job! No Jimmy coins. Well, hopefully your daughter grows up better. She doesn't need it. Anyways. She doesn't need to eat. It looks like we're going to play out the early game in a very similar fashion. Is that going to be an Oracle? I mean, oh. Neeb rallied out like he was going to rally an Oracle. And then built a Void Ray and re-rallied to the Ovi. I don't know if that's like a snap decision from Neeb, like, maybe I just want to go for the Overlord this time, because the Oracle didn't really do anything last game. Not that it needs to, but it is an investment. But interesting, going for the Void Ray first, and then an Oracle after. I guess that accomplishes the same thing with more dead Overlords. Scarlett, already building Ovis. She'll be fine. Actually, supply blocked at 44 for a while. They weren't built at the same time, so. With Larva on deck, right? Yeah. Building the drones now, of course. Now, what will it be? Are we going to see another Robo? Does Neeb opt for the exact same style? He hasn't really committed. Oh, what the hell is that? Oh, no, Neeb. No. Neeb learned a little, maybe too much from M-Canning, though one might argue you could never learn enough from M-Canning, so have it out. Another Stargate and a Fleet Beacon. So, is this... Parting did a Tempest build in GSL, but that was against Terran, which actually seems like it would be worse. Tempest probably have more early game utility against Zerg, I would admit. He's not going to just build carriers, right? He hasn't built any... It looks like he's going to just build carriers. Oh my god. I mean, that might be the reason for the Void Ray first. You can't just build... This is how this is the game M-Canning lost. Was the game where he just straight up went carriers against Scarlett. He actually won the other games where there was a little more subtlety. Oh, the Stasis Ward actually worked. But MK, like, Scarlett just walked up with Hydras and, I know, now listen closely, Microbial Shroud, which against early carriers is actually pretty great because the interceptors do effectively no damage with that 50% reduction. Don't worry about the math, because there's not enough on the ground or just a critical mass of carriers yet, and the interceptors just die. Okay. Like, if you get away with it, if you get like 6 carriers out before they realize, sure, fine. But it's pretty rare against players of this caliber. You're just gonna pop out with... What? He's not even across the map. Where are you going? Where are you going? This isn't Midway. Where are you going? He's just... No! What? That's 2 carriers against 6. I feel like the Queens win that. Neeb's building the interceptors. There's only... Just send it, bro. What happened to you, Neeb? What is this? It's a bold move. The Queen's just kind of fighting the interceptors. I guess you can, yeah, target fire. Only, okay, 2 interceptors have died. At some point, well, the Queen's... Alright, well. It appears that Neeb has lost more in mineral interceptors than Scarlett has lost in Queen. Like... That was stupid. I mean... I don't think showing the carriers and then just losing all the interceptors... Like, these are decoy carriers. He's going for a ground army. Which, I guess if Scarlett just blindly built 25 Corruptors or something, but she doesn't even have a Spire. She just built Hydras, because it's 2 carriers. I don't know what I want. Like, this... It feels very... This feels like it's doing nothing. It's also like a very expensive nothing. This is like the F-35 of strategies right here. It's like, well, I mean, look, they can't kill them. That's very true. But does not maybe fit the kind of battle we need to be fighting right now. If you get countered by 3 queens, or maybe just a bunch of drones, to really extend this analogy, then the carrier, they can't kill the drones at the speed at which Scarlett just makes more drones. So... I guess Neeb has a lot of Templar now, but it feels like Scarlett went over a speed bump, and those carriers were a very expensive speed bump. And now Scarlett's maxed out at 9 minutes with +2/+1 finishing, and Neeb is at 150 supply, some of that in carriers. As an arguably great man once said, more stuff counters less stuff. I guess there are 2 there are storms, but the storms will also kind of kill interceptors. So the storms are good. This is such an awkward game. Neeb has all the good units. He's got Immortals, he's got Archons, he's got carriers. Why? Scarlett. Alright, I'm allergic to this strategy. I'm sorry. Ugh. Ugh. Give that back to the Defilers. There's no reason, like, Scarlett, let's look at the income. Let's look at the fancy graphs. I guess Neeb has a 4th now, but Scarlett, she can trade, like, twice as badly. And don't worry, she is. But there's just nothing here. There's just not enough army. Neeb couldn't put together the production after building towards the carriers to actually defend against just a full-on Roach Hydra attack. So... yeah, Neeb is doing a pretty decent counterattack with Zealots, but not as decent as this attack. It does appear, in my professional opinion, Neeb just dies. Which... from the start of the carriers moving out of the base, not necessarily sitting in the base, but moving out of the base, kind of felt like where this would end up to me. So. Yep. The Zerg. Gonna... Okay, Neeb. That is a very confusing Game 2 build to me. Like, like, I just want a solid timing. Now we're gonna go with my carrier recon party build. So Scarlett evens up the series. Now we've got the first couple games out of the way. We're down to a best of 3, effectively. All right. Not actually. It's still a best of 5. Sorry, I don't sneeze mid-cast, pro tip. Neeb with a very quick, like, he's all on board with the early probes. So there are two, well, Neeb, actually, I'm a little surprised to see him doing it. But Neeb is usually one of the people who scouts later against Zerg. He's like, I'm going to get my build, I'm going to make sure it's all in order, and then, like, off of Cybercore, I'm going to scout and then die to Zerglings. But Neeb, throughout this series, has gone for the probe at essentially the start of the game, which is required if you want to block in a particularly quick expansion. It's not always the same expansion, but like if you're looking to block like a hatch before Overlord, which some players get in the habit of doing. Okay, Neeb. What's it gonna be? Like, if I'm very concerned he's gonna go carriers again. I don't think he will, but like, there's a high. If he does, I don't know what to think. That was just on every level. That felt like something that like Twitch chat cooked up. It's like, use the carriers to bait your opponent into building 30 corruptors. Scarlett's like, what if I had 5 queens? You know what counters 2 carriers? 5 queens and a spore. What I have every single game.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Neeb,
we got him.
Off to a rough start. Losing the scouting probe to drones is honestly, between the probe issues earlier last game, it just doesn't feel like Neeb's in this series 100% right now. Like, that's rough. Like, game 1 looks sharp, but the last couple games so far have not as sharp. It's a Twilight. That Twilight probably going to be followed by a Robo. That Robo probably going to be followed by Glaives. Those Glaives followed by Scarlett getting adepted. Adept scouts in. Scarlett taking the third, as she has most of this. No Robo out of Neeb. Which... nothing out of Neeb, actually. He's not building... okay, it is Glaives. Huh. I mean, I guess it could just be a straight-up shade across. Neeb, one of the very first, depending on who you are, you'd say users or abusers. But Neeb definitely found a lot of success with the Adepts earlier in Legacy of the Void. In fact, he was kind of the template that people worked off of. But things have evolved a bit. There is no Robo. Usually the War Prism is used in tandem with 4 gates to reinforce. But there's no robotics facility, which I can follow the trend here. There is not going to be a War Prism. That's how that works. So this is probably a quick third into double Robo. Interesting. Yeah, this is right now I'm working off of Neeb from like 2017. What? Well, that's different. Neeb really baiting with the Adepts. Oh no. I mean, there's a lot more steps here. It's double star, which I would imagine is for Phoenix. The Glaives are gonna finish. There is no third. And 6 roaches already on the way, so Neeb wanted roaches, he got roaches. It is definitely the intent of Neeb to bait out roaches here, but then what? It better not be for carriers. Don't you dare go carriers, Neeb. Void Race. Void Race to defend the third. Okay, thank you. Don't you dare. Ah, yes. I'm stealing that. Artosis' term? Starglaves. Which, it really does feel like an awkward transition, but if you do force out enough roaches, that can put the Zerg in a super awkward spot. Delayed lair tech, plus a bunch of roaches, and the worst feeling is having a bunch of roaches lying around. Full stop. And also, when you invest in them to defend and can't actually go on offense. Like, if there are 4 Void Rays out, those roaches and lings aren't going to attack the third. Like, that, it's not going to happen. On top of the fact, like, you don't know how committed they are to Stargate. He's just going to show 2 Void Rays. Wait, did the Overlord? The Overlord didn't see the Stargates! Why show 2? Neeb is just flaunting his Void Rays right here. I'm, like, showing 1 Void Ray isn't necessarily anything. Even though it is a little awkward, I guess it's a bit of a tell. If you go Void Ray after going Glaives, you're probably going for Stargate, but Scarlett didn't actually know about the Stargate as of yet. So, Neeb just gonna really try to get over there. Hydra Den's halfway done. There is no Hydra Den. So, with no Hydras and just Queens. But Queens, like, oh, you brought another very expensive Stargate unit? Queens! What? How do you counter carriers? Queens! How do you counter Void Rays? Queens! Oracles! Queens! Adepts! Queens, but also probably some roaches, let's be fair here. Oracles actually do pretty well against Queens because it's spell damage. But okay, so this is Starglaves right here. I've never seen it close up. It's a bunch of Void Rays and a bunch of Glaved Adepts. He's just... The Voids are here, but there's enough Queens that they can't actually make any headway. Neeb, if he loses any major part of this army, then Scarlett is just going to run him over, just like last game. So, while Scarlett has to stay home right now, she's got to chill, because there's a half a dozen Void Rays, maybe 8 Void Rays now, and a couple dozen Adepts waiting to shade in. How does Neeb actually... Like, say we get to maxed out supply, which looks likely at this point. How does Neeb win a fight? Like, Roach Hydra just beats Void Rays and Adepts with no splash damage. It's like the only less cost-effective unit composition. Void Rays are good at, like, sniping main bases, or whatever they do in the Gold League, but Hydras trade well with Voids in even numbers. Well, in even numbers, the Voids have an advantage, because, of course, they're way more costly. But, like, 20 Hydras easily deal with 10 Void Rays. There's no Flux Veins either, which means these Void Rays can't actually move around that quick. Flux Veins would probably force an Infestation Pit and or a Spire to at least get something that can move around to deal with them. But... well... yeah, stutter stepping Void Rays isn't a great proposition either, so... I'm scared for Neeb. As an American, and as a 1/3 protoss, and as a general lover of good games for the fans, like and subscribe, I'm scared for Neeb. The Scarlett's maxed out at nearly the same timing, with nearly the same upgrades. This time Neeb has a lot more to meet her, but... and there are force fields, but there's no splash. There's no splash damage. This army doesn't win. As soon as Scarlett closes the distance, they're not Ravagers. They're Disruptors on the way, but Scarlett's already here. At some point, the Disruptor could get a maximum damage hit, but we'll see. Neeb trying to hold on, desperately chronoing out those Disruptors. They couldn't be any quicker. and immediately a disruptor dies. Not really what we're looking for here. Guardian Shield helping a lot, though. Cybercore targeted. No more glaives. Disruptor shot from the top floor. Takes a hit. Neeb's holding for now. Blink's not done. Neither is +1. Just gateway units. The Void Rays are holding. Scarlett is breaching the front. Gets a few more Hydras into the main. The probes have to be pulled. The economy is being hurt, which lessens the chance of dealing with this again. So Neeb, at the end of the day, well, he's not holding yet. Scarlett is just going. The rallying point is across the map. The Hydras are targeting Immortals. There's no charge on the Zealots. Disruptor shot comes through. Neeb finally halts. But at what cost? Scarlett lost 3,000 more resources, but she has the rich Vespine base in the center. You know what? That looked kind of bad for Neeb, and losing probes wasn't great, but... Now, Neeb doesn't know this for sure. There's no Hive. There's no Lurker dead. There's not that many drones. Scarlett just got up to 73, and now, of course, she's going to go to like 100. And now Neeb held with barely any disruptors. Now he has disruptors. Now he has space. You know, I revise my outlook on it. Neeb holding with minimal economic losses and getting the space to go for splash damage. I think that favored Neeb a bit. I really thought that Scarlett would be able to run him over, but he held just enough. I'm sure there was a shield battery overcharge we didn't quite see at the third. Scarlett got a little disjointed. She went for the kill. She could have bitten off a leg or an arm or maybe some fingernails, and now it's painful. But she went for the heart and didn't quite land it. So now we're going into the most expensive tech for both sides. We got Templar, Ruptors, we got Vipers and Lurkers. We're teching up, and we're staring down the center. Neeb trying to push back the creep. A tall order against Scarlett, especially when she's had map control for most of the last few minutes. Burrow and Tunneling Claws has had a resurgence. Tunneling Claws actually went on sale a few patches ago. It only costs 100 now, which is reasonably cheap. Of course, you still need Burrow, otherwise it just makes your roaches look cool. This is happening. No one's happy with how that went. Somehow both players are... No, Neeb. With the Selectile army that roach. Meanwhile, Scarlett with a dangerous army herself. Vipers added into the mix. Lurker upgrades are on the way. That means Scarlett doesn't expect it to end here, but she wants to take a good fight. Disruptors, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait. Now, Neeb doesn't want to get the... Abduct interrupts the Purification Nova. But at the same time, you don't want to be left without any either way. Are there feedbacks for the Vipers? The feedbacks for the Vipers could decide a lot. Binding Cloud blinks to the left. Holds in a couple Raptors. Shield battery overcharge helping out so much right now. The Void Rays show up again. I don't know what happened to that roach. Scarlett chased back to her side of the map. An Everdream might become a nightmare momentarily with this much splash damage on the field. The Vipers are out of energy. They're consuming the hatch that's about to be under attack. Neeb on the warpath right now. His disruptors have recharged. His Void Rays are ready to go. And the Stalkers are mostly at full HP. But there's only the disruptors to save the day. That's a terrible angle. Snipes off a couple Vipers. A few more disruptors, I believe, are coming in. Consuming the hatch, a bold move. Looks for a shot off the side. Another shot. Nice hit on the Hydras. A couple more Ruptors. Great concave for Scarlett. But Neeb is biting off bits of it. With the Ruptors, a couple force fields. Neeb in retreat, down 60 supply. He's fighting with Stalkers against Hydras and Roaches with some Viper support. Sure, a couple Ruptors landed, but I don't see any Disruptors, do you? The battle will continue. Scarlett actually supply blocked at this stage. Lost enough Overseers that it's a 181 over 174, which is still, either way, well over Neeb's 133. Scarlett now has the income of the top left base. Both top left. Oh, okay. You guys might as well be Lurkers as well, right? Like... Scarlett agrees. If we're already here, all right, like you already opened it, so. If you don't make a lurker in the next 12 seconds, it goes bad. Well, Scarlett not going to be one to let that go to waste. Ultraless Cavern, Adrenal Glands, Hive Tech, Neeb on a tenuous footing. I think that, like, counterattack, you have to do it. But he could really use some, like, Zealot counterattack, some more prisms. He's just now getting charged. The lurkers working up in towards the fourth. Disruptor shot. Does it? Well, gets a decent connection. Blinding Cloud. Scarlett is closing in with those Hive Tech lurkers. The Blinding Cloud have not. Those stalkers need to see an optometrist. And that's how it ends. Neeb reached too far with too little. And Scarlett overwhelms. There was a lot more detail to this one, but that puts Scarlett on match point. Neeb had a rough go of it the last couple games. I'm not sure what he's thinking there. I do have to question. Like, I get it. You're going to mix up some builds, but it was a strong curveball from game one where it looked like he just walked over Scarlett. So, we'll be getting into potentially our last match in this Dreamhack Masters losers bracket or potential winners finals. Jimmy. Anyways, first, before that, we're gonna quickly get a word from our sponsors. Hey everybody! I'm Winter, and did you know if you like this series, or you like this casting, or you don't strongly dislike this face, then you should like and subscribe to the video, because then YouTube will force feed you more videos like this one. You're gonna have to get like 3 or 4 to make sure it's not a loco video, but together we can do it. And also check out Dreamhack Masters every few months on Twitch. Thanks! Thank you guys for sticking around. Going into game 4. Neeb needs to... I don't like the random void race. I don't like the random carriers. I feel pretty strongly about that. Just cast the game. You don't need to provide analytical commentary, you noob. When was your WCS win? And I hear you. But Neeb doesn't, like, there's some players like Parting, like SOS, like Zest to an extent. That their specialty, if you had to name something, it's winning. And then there are some players who are still more about consistency. And I feel like a lot of those, especially in this matchup, a lot of those former Shield Protoss type of players are now feeling like, well, I gotta mix up my builds every game because otherwise they'll see my trap card. So, it doesn't suit Neeb, to be honest. Neither would a suit either, I would imagine, but he could definitely afford a well-fitted one. Huh, how's he gonna wall this one off? Wait a second, am I in a weird... Oh my god. If Neeb loses his probe again, he's lost 100% of the games where something went horribly wrong with his probe. Oh my god. He almost lost. Scarlett went for it. Like, you got to. You know it's a moral vic. It's not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, losing one probe. But, like, mentally, losing a probe to drones 2 games in a row is a devastating blow. Nope. Alright. Blow. Moving on. Neeb is he gonna go Stargate again? It really looks... Wait. Oh my, what is he doing? Oh, he's delaying his Stargate a lot, but he's not getting Warp Gate for a long time. It feels like he got his second Gaslight. And that's why, because usually you wouldn't delay Warp Gate for, say, long enough to build multiple Adepts. I don't know if this is, like, is this... We'll see. What will it be this time? Is this time for the Phoenix? Are we finally going to get every Stargate unit? Well, we haven't seen Phoenix and Tempest yet in this series. I'm surprised we haven't seen even one Phoenix. But this could be our opportunity. Check off all that bingo card. Neeb actually completes the Shade. Not a bad call. Barely any Zerglings here. Gonna rack up... Oh, great pre-dodge from Scarlett. Still Neeb's gonna find some kills. Gets 3 drones. And gets an Adept out. Not bad. So, solid choice there from Neeb. On top of that, of course, it's a good scout. You got in your opponent's base. Oh, the Zerglings are pretty angry about that. Oh, the Adept trying to juke. Ah! Nah, the Zerglings, when they close the distance, they're angry. Or maybe they're just excited to do their job well. Uh-huh. So this is what happened when Warp Gate's that far from completion. Ooh, losing that Adept would really be... It would be tough. Void Ray is the follow-up. And we're back. This is looking like the Game 1 build. Scarlett pretty hard supply blocked here as well by that Void Ray, which is kind of a rookie mistake. You know that that Overlord is going to die, so getting supply blocked at that timing is pretty dicey. Third base pretty quickly. I gotta stop saying pretty, alright? You know who's pretty? You. You, my friend. And now we've removed it from the vocabulary. Twilight and Council. You know what? Somebody take over. Stasis finds 1 drone. Couple of Adepts making their way downtown, walking fast, shading into drone line. And finds a couple kills, pulls away the drones. 4 kills. Decent scout as well. Sees the evolution chamber, sees how many gases, sees the lair building, has to assume it's probably going to complete soon. And Neeb is actually going, instead of a 2-base focus timing, it's going to be more of a 3-base macro. Immortals, sentries, but this time the Twilight and the Forge indicated earlier that it is going to be more drawn out. We're going to be looking at 70 probes. We're going to look at that Immortal, Archon, Charge Lot, a strong army. And then probably Storm because Neeb isn't a casual. We will see though. No reason not to push out. Is there a prism on the map? Okay, that's one reason not to push out. When you see a prism being produced, in all likelihood, it's going to be part of an attack. Thank you, Neeb. Neeb's already out on the map, which is a bold move. He doesn't have that prism yet. Scarlett has 4 Hydras, though. That's her entire army. She's building a few more. It looks like Neeb may get this 4th base. Force fields strongly discourage continuation of that movement pathing. And Neeb delays the 4th. Stasis was reacted to over at the 3rd. Neeb is within a decent chunk on the worker count, as well as income. In fact, it's tilting back his way as Scarlett pulled away for a moment on that stasis. So, alright. We're back to basics. This Neeb, also one of the pioneers of this style. The Immortal Archon charge lot with the High Templar sprinkled in. I think the only extra dimension we have now that wasn't such a big threat in the past are lurker upgrades, like lurker range and the lurker speed / burrow speed. A few zealots into the main, a classic tactic, and because it's effective. Scarlett doesn't have that many drones to burn here either, or lose, or whatever other gruesome way they get butchered. But the drones have to pull away. Scarlett brings every single Hydra back in a lazy NA move. Come on, Scarlett. Come on, Scarlett. Come on. Leaves a few behind to watch for that prism. But the space that was created just there by the prism, the charge lots in the main, means Neeb gets his very own 4th base. And this time it's not about to die to a way higher supply Zerg army. No! Neeb has about the same time on the 4th, a minute or so behind. Not bad at all. Decent upgrades and a solid army on the field, as well as the threat of a warp prism in the back. Okay, we're looking good. Now we got a game. Lurker Den is on the way. Hive starts. So those threats about to become less hypothetical and more reality. The warp prism waits over the swamp for the X-Wing to rise up and destroy the Hive in one very well-timed shot. Wait. Never mind. That's the star something. So many Hydras. 33 Hydras. A sprinkling of Zerglings. There's not even a Baneling nest. Hydras are probably, well, they're very high DPS for the cost. It's just they're very vulnerable. So, they have significantly less HP than a Roach. And, of course, our light units. So Storm's a big threat. And you know what, Jimmy, can we get a check on that forecast? Jimmy, the forecast! Okay. Looks like Storm. Lurkers on the way. Scarlett. Fleet beacon, but not a, like, a fleet beacon. More like a fleet beacon. As Neeb is already preparing for the next phase, starting to realize it's very unlikely. He may not have scouted the Lurker Den, but it's kind of implied. When you pass 20 Hydras, they really should just throw in a Lurker Den for free. But unfortunately, the Zerg, pretty stingy. Seismic spines, +1 carapace. We've still skirmished, but no. Oh, yeah, my life for hire. That changeling pulling out a very convincing show. Yeah, go get him. How does the storm? Neeb, unconvinced. Unconvinced. He knows. He can tell. You didn't fight as hard as the rest of them. So, Scarlett, this base will have to be contested. There is no choice. There are 17 lurkers, which is really, well, a strong statement from Scarlett. 17 lurkers are not to be taken lightly. Maybe by light units. So the lurkers are starting to encroach, not just defend that purple base, which is the only double rich Vespine base in the map pool. And maybe ever, I think. There's a Zealot counterattack into the Natural. The Lurker battle continues. The Natural getting gutted right now by a nice group of Zealots. I lost track. I was going to call them Psyblades. We don't just call people by their weapons, okay? I was trying to think of an example where it's called the weapon, but... Okay. Well, the Lurkers are in 2 different groups, whereas Neeb is a strong, thick, meaty center. And he works towards one side or the other and easily kills. The danger against Neeb's army for Scarlett is if she ever loses that critical mass of lurkers. Enough lurkers that even Archons have to take a second, maybe take a second and reconsider, which is very hard to get them to do. They're double-minded, not just single-minded. It's kind of how it works. But Scarlett has kind of taken bite-sized pieces of those lurkers and move them around in such a way that Neeb can now actually just fight them. Like 6 or 7 lurkers, not even at full HP. That's not a very difficult proposition. Well, Scarlett's trying to join up with the other lurkers. Neeb's got to go soon. He's starting to bleed units here, but Storm will soften him up. Carriers have arrived as well. One more Storm, or just closing the distance might be enough here. Another handful of lurkers on the left side, but Neeb's just chewing through them. He lost detection for a moment, though. He lost detection, and for just a couple seconds, that cost him the Immortals. Scarlett refuses to retreat very far. I guess the carriers will decide it, but at some point, this base was taken out. I think Scarlett missed it. Neeb may have missed it. I missed it for sure. I do apologize, but this base had to be restarted. Maybe Zealots? Is there a Dark Shrine? Of course. I think I know what happened. How many DTs have been lost? 0. Okay, never mind. DTs never die. They're just missing in action. Meanwhile, Scarlett besieging the 4th. The lurkers ripping through the ground into the base. There's a lot of Hydras. Neeb doesn't have... He's not maxed out. He's not even close. There needs to be detection. Storms dropping on a lot of the Hydras, but there's more where that came from. There's only 4 carriers, which is not the critical mass needed to just work through those Hydralisks. More bases on the way for Neeb, but the 4th is dead, and with it 22 probes. And Scarlett will carry it through just 3 games in a row. 3 times back-to-back with more than enough units. The carriers come in, Neeb goes out. You can't explain that, but I will try. Scarlett realized that making a bunch of Hydras against someone who can't keep up with the splash damage and using lurkers to back it up against the ground is more than enough to overpower before a critical mass of carriers can be reached. Scarlett looking like the better player in that series. And we'll move on. Will it continue? Is Scarlett back? Is it going to be one of those where, oh my god, Scarlett's back? Or how will it end? Thank you for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed this breakdown of Dreamhack Masters Fall 2020. If you did, like, subscribe, and remember, you're pretty. Good luck, have fun. Go click the playlist. Don't just autoplay. Sheeple. Playlist. Or there. Oh yeah, the end screen. Do an end screen thing.